So the other day, I was casually scrolling YouTube, deep down in the suggested videos rabbit hole. Damn, they even have Moist Critical doing 20 views. When I came across this video from Shannon Sharp's podcast with NBA Hall of Famer and instant quotable Charles Barkley.
That stuff they put in horses, I had them stick it in me a couple times.
Hey, yo!
Hey, probably didn't need to go that far.
Talking about how easy it is for athletes to go broke, his conversation about his early lavish spending with Julius Erving, the same guy who did this, and how young black men who come into money often give into financial traps that turn their life savings into quicksand. I highly recommend that you check it out the next time you think about whether or not you should attend the next Met Gala, or if your favorite influencer leads you to believe that buying Balenciaga is a good investment. And really quickly, one thing I wanted to get off my chest while I was doing research for the video, like, what the fuck are we doing as humans in this day and age? Like, this is a literal Balenciaga summer collection event. My are walking around in dirt and mud, rocking torn up pieces of clothing sewed together, sold at retail for like $1,700. This is what life has come to. Anyways, Charlotte would start mentioning guys like Grant Hill and Magic Johnson, players who are among the most recognizable in the sport and are also part of the few players who have made more money off the court than on. That was until Shannon mentioned this one guy who left me truly stumped as to who the hell was he?
Give Junior Bridgeman some credit too. People don't know who that is.
Every time I see Junior, I say thank you because Magic is kind of taking over now.
Oh, yes.
But Junior was a good player, but his portfolio, owning all those restaurants, probably being the first billionaire athlete, to be honest with you, for a guy who didn't make a ton of money.
That's what's so impressive.
Yeah,
and didn't have the name.
To learn how to handle business. He's probably got 500 to 1,000 restaurants now.
People wanted to attach themselves to Magic.
Yes.
People wanted to attach themselves to Mike.
Yes.
He was Junior Bridgeman.
Just a great businessman and a good dude.
While I know that the title of first billionaire athlete belongs to one of these two guys, depending on the source, to even make the claim means that this guy must be pretty damn rich. Doing some research, I found out that the player that they were referring to was one Ulysses Junior Bridgeman. Bridgeman played 12 years in the NBA during the 70s and 80s in the peak of the Bird Magic era. While Bridgeman was an above average player, he was never a household name, with his highest earnings in one season amounting to a measly $350,000. To which, when comparing into today's NBA contracts using inflation from the 70s and 80s, it would equate to about the same as the league minimum in today's NBA. However, it was his off-the-court actions that would bring his name to prominence in later years, as despite looking like a guy who you would casually pass by in a grocery store, is estimated to be worth a whopping $600 million, putting him ahead of household names such as Shaq, KD, Hakeem Olajuwon, and Stephen Curry. Without further ado, my name is Reezo, and this is the story of Junior Bridgeman, from basketball veteran to savvy businessman. Bridgeman's story would begin on September 17, 1953, in East Chicago, Indiana. Often nicknamed the Arsenal of America, East Chicago was most known for its heavy industry and its manufacturing activity at this time. As with the city's growing population due to the Great Migration and the arrival of inland steel in 1903, transformed the city into an industrial powerhouse and would become the most industrialized city in all of the United States. Bridgeman's father, Ulysses Sr., worked at one of the country's largest steel mills at the time when the American steel industry was at its peak, especially as the Korean War waged on. His mother was a homemaker, holding it down in the household, providing order and stability amongst the family. Now, there isn't too much information out there regarding Bridgeman's family, but I did stumble across an article from the Bluefield University in regards to his brother, Samuel Bridgeman, who is actually very successful in his own right, graduating with a bachelor's in communication from the University of Denver, while also being a prominent insurance agent in New York as well, With how much the US were farming war materials at this time, ironically sparking a highly publicized union strike a year prior, this line of work was not glamorous by any means, and the conditions working in the steel industry were far from ideal. So with Bridgman's father and Bridgman's father's father working in steel, it's not hard to imagine Junior following in their footsteps. But Junior's father had other plans for his son. Despite a post-World War II country with the racial division still years away from being resolved, Ulysses' father encouraged Junior to focus on his academics and strive to live a life beyond steel. And Junior definitely took this advice to heart. Bridgman would attend Washington High School, excelling in his schooling as he held a high GPA, while also dominating on the hardwood as a 6'5" senior. In his final year of high school, Bridgman would lead his team to a 29-0 undefeated record while averaging an eye-catching 17.3 points per game with 16 rebounds on just 11 shots per game. This would culminate in winning the 1971 state championship. Things couldn't have been looking better for Junior at the time, who despite not initially planning on a career with basketball past high school, could not turn down a full ride to the University of Louisville. Playing under legendary coach Denny Crum, Bridgman was nice. In his 3-year collegiate career, he averaged 15.5 points per game, 7.6 rebounds, and 2.7 assists, winning Missouri Valley Conference Play of the Year consecutively in 1974 and 1975, while also leading his team to a Final Four appearance. Unfortunately, they would go on to lose this game in heartbreaking fashion to the eventual champions UCLA, losing to a last-second shot after being ahead for most of the game. While Junior's collegiate career didn't end as he would have planned for it to, his work in the classroom was definitely paying off. At the end of his 4-year stint, Junior was able to obtain his bachelor's degree in psychology, showing the foundations for excelling in other fields beyond basketball. Ironically, Junior would consider pursuing law school over an NBA career, but his love of the game and his consistent play at Louisville over the past 3 years could not be understated. And with his draft stock remaining in high order, it was expected for Bridgman to be a lottery selection in the upcoming 1975 NBA draft. Junior would indeed be selected in the lottery, being picked 8th overall by the Los Angeles Lakers. And for anyone wondering, yes, I am a Lakers fan. Please don't go too crazy. We gonna figure it out though. Being drafted by the Lakers at this time, expectations were high for the franchise to be turned on its head. The Lakers had just come off an unimpressive 30-52 record, missing the playoffs for the first time in nearly 2 decades, after making the finals in 2 of the last 5 years, while simultaneously dealing with the departures of stars such as Elgin Baylor in '71 and Wilt Chamberlain in '73. The Lakers were in search of a new star, and a star they would find in Junior. No, I'm just kidding. That star wasn't Junior Bridgeman, unfortunately.
Sometime tomorrow, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar will officially become a member of the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers will announce that they have acquired the 28-year-old former UCLA star in exchange for center Elmore Smith, forward guard Brian Winters, and Los Angeles' top 2 draft choices of this year, UCLA's David Myers and Junior Bridgeman of Louisville.
Just 3 weeks after being drafted, the Lakers decided to deal him in one of the most historic and impactful trades in NBA history, as he would be a part of a package that would land the Lakers Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Now in Milwaukee, Junior would spend 9 of his 12 seasons with the Bucks, carving out a role as a solid NBA player, averaging double digits in each of his seasons in Milwaukee, excluding his rookie season. Playing with guys like Sidney Moncrief, Marcus Johnson, Terry Cummings, Bill Lanier, Bob Dandridge. The Bucks would make the playoffs consistently during Bridgman's tenure, but despite often finishing first or second in the division, the Bucks were never able to win a championship, or let alone reach the finals, as these Bucks teams have been often regarded as some of the best teams in history to never hoist the Larry O'Brien Trophy. After 9 seasons as a Buck, Bridgman would be traded to the LA Clippers. Unfortunately for him, the Clippers were still the literal doormat of the NBA at this time, but lucky for him, he would only be there for 2 seasons before being traded back to the Bucks for the last season of his career, finally retiring in 1987. In his 12-year career, Bridgeman averaged 13.5 points per game, 3.5 rebounds, and 2.5 assists, shooting 47% from the field and 84% from the line. In total, Bridgeman played 849 games, with 711 of those games being with Milwaukee, the second most in Bucks history, only being eclipsed just this past year by Giannis Antetokounmpo. While not a superstar, Bridgeman definitely held his own, carving out a solid role on a winning team with several All-Stars. The Sixth Man of the Year award was not created until the 1982-83 season, but many believe that if this award was established earlier, then Bridgeman would have been a perennial winner.
You're speaking of Junior Bridgeman. Don Nelson, the coach of Milwaukee, says he's the best sixth man in basketball.
Think of it like the 80s version of Jay Crossover. Retirement usually marks the end of relevancy or multi-million-dollar contracts for many, but for Junior Bridgeman, this would really mark the start of his journey and his life purpose, one that would be more rewarding than he or anyone could have ever imagined. Despite being a sixth man, Bridgeman still managed to rake in over $1 million in his playing career. So how would he turn this small fortune into over $500 million? Well, let's rewind the clock back a few years before Bridgeman decided to hang him up. During the off-season, while most players decided to go on lengthy vacations or live the party lifestyle and drink their nights away, Junior went out of his way to scratch the business itch that he had always secretly had. He had expressed this desire to the at-time Bucks owner, Jim Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald would respond by saying, quote, "If you get involved with business, you only have 2 problems, people and money," end quote. At the time, Junior didn't really understand what Fitzgerald was saying, but his decision to sell insurance and work at Howard Johnson in the offseason certainly paint the picture for him. It was a major adjustment, he says. To have to be somewhere all day with a shirt and tie on, filling out forms or answering the phone or checking people in, end quote. It was evident that Junior was different from his counterparts in both the basketball and business world. After playing in the NBA for 12 seasons against GOATs such as Kareem, MJ, Magic, Bird, flying in PJs across the country, playing in front of thousands of people, to clocking in at 9 a.m., filing papers, and selling insurance over the phone in a suit and tie. I mean, just imagine walking into State Farm and seeing Oz Reed or Malik Monk checking in clients at the front desk. It's almost unfathomable. Guys who make millions would rather start buying out businesses their agents sell to them without really having an understanding of the day-to-day activities. But here Junior is getting into the field, getting his hands dirty, something he definitely took from his father as a steel miller all those years ago. And it didn't stop there. After his retirement, Junior would go on to purchase 5 Wendy's franchises in the Milwaukee area. Despite being the literal owner of the franchises, Junior insisted on working in every facet of the business. My man was out here flipping burgers, mopping the damn floors. This dude was something else. I mean, just picture a 6'5" giant casually fixing Baconators and mopping the floor in his spare time on some real-life undercover boss type shit. Regardless, the purchases of his 5 restaurants weren't initially slam dunks. Junior was losing anywhere from hundreds of thousands, if not close to $1 million in his first year of ownership alone. For many, that would have scared them off entirely. Ownership can be a fickle game, as just like the stock market, there are often ups and often downs that can drastically shape the landscape of your investment. Junior was quoted saying, "At that point, you have to make it work anyway. Failure was not an option." With that said, Junior had to go back to the drawing board to try to see if he could turn his investment into a profit. I think at this point, I could say that this is where Junior used his time as president of the Players Union to his advantage. You see, being the president of the Players Union isn't something to take lightly at all. If you look at the history of the presidents of the Players Union, these are some of the greatest players of the game, but more importantly, some of the most respected men in the game of basketball during their time. Former presidents include greats such as Bob Cousy, Oscar Robertson, Patrick Ewing, Derek Fisher, and Chris Paul, to name a few. As president, your job is to directly reflect the opinions of your colleagues. Your word is a direct representation of their thoughts and feelings. And similarly, being on good terms and doing the work necessary to gain the respect will result in your peers not only backing you, but also breeding the results that you desire. Junior would take on the same approach with the business as well. Junior rejected the idea that his stores would sell themselves, believing the notion that the people working for him would need to sell the store. What I tried to do was to get everybody to understand that we are a team, he says. We work together as a team, we win as a team, and we lose as a team, end quote. Junior would focus on raising income by concentrating on gaining the trust and respect of his employees to in turn motivate them to work harder and to sell more products. This approach proved to be more than effective, as just that year, Bridgeman's Wendy's would begin to turn a profit, soon turning that profit into millions each year. Not one to remain content, Junior would use the money generated from these franchises to double down and purchase more Wendy's across America, going on to purchase an incredible 195 Wendy's nationwide, making him the second largest Wendy's franchise owner. Bridgeman would continue to expand his empire, purchasing 125 Chili's restaurants and 45 Fannie Mae's, with multiple other restaurants and franchises across the Milwaukee and Louisville area over the years. And while Junior enjoyed his success, as he was finally able to reap the fruits of the seeds he had planted all those years ago, he didn't want to be the only one to enjoy it alone. Junior would use his knowledge and his experience to help other former athletes maximize their earnings, most notably partnering with the recently enshrined Hall of Famer Chauncey Billups, who would purchase 30 Wendy's franchises in the St. Louis area. In 2017, Junior would become an owner of a Coca-Cola bottling distribution operation, while also purchasing Ebony and Jet magazine for a total of $14 million after they had declared for bankruptcy. Even with the more business he acquired and the more wealth he continued to accumulate, Bridgeman never failed to give back to his community and town that gave him so much. Junior would be lauded for his philanthropy over the years, providing generous donations to numerous causes and organizations. And despite Junior's net worth, it was never about money for Junior to begin with. Speaking with the Arkansas business, Junior would say, quote, "It's about helping other people better their lives," he said. That's what the driving goal is. If you can't look back over your life and see where you've helped someone, a group of people, a number of people make their lives better, if you can't do that, then however many years you've lived, I say you've just lived in vain. You've missed the mark, end quote. I think it's safe to say that Ulysses Junior Bridgeman has done more than made his mark.